Good morning, it's Lee of Loving Life with Light and Universal Astrology. I apologize, there is a little bit of background noise for my 3-year-old. We'll just skip on her. So today is the 2nd of March, 2021. Typical screen here. We have we can see clearly on the KP index, first of all, the bottom bar graph is the KP index, and we can see how much of a storm we've kind of had, a geomagnetic storm recently. And it is kind of still hanging around, and that's coming from the coronal hole streams of fast solar winds from the sun, which we can see as black spots on the purple sun there, and that is the sun in the last 24 hours. And I'm gonna click over to the earthquake globe here. We have several more so earthquakes, some really rather deep. And yesterday I noticed I was doing my own kind of research on earthquakes and kind of what's going on in the space weather and a little bit. And I decided to go ahead and watch where let me show you my side. And I know yesterday's recording didn't correctly, so we're gonna make sure that my microphone continues to go, and it's still going. Yay! So I'm gonna show you here. Let's see. Yeah. So here's a kind of bigger, better version of the app. Now, the earthquakes that were catching my attention was right over here. Now, if on an app on my phone, I have one that also shows volcanoes. So there's a bunch of volcanoes that are active in this area too. So I don't know, I just intuitively, I guess, kind of check that out. So if we go and we can go to somewhere we can see all of this on a map of where all the Earth's erupting volcanoes are. Here, there's a lot of them right here, and there's a lot going on over here. So just taking a look at that, there's something I wanted to show you guys. So this is, again, from an app on my phone. It's really great. It's actually sister to the SolarSystemScope app that I use all the time to show the 3D aspect of things. So this allows me to see really what cartography shows, but in motion. Cartography, astronomy or astrology cartography can show us the rising and the sun patterns and the the path that the planets take around the sun. I've used this before in natal charts, but this is just another way to see. Now what we're actually watching in this video is I'm centered on the Australia, because that's where a lot of the volcanoes and stuff are going on, and I started on the particular day that a particular volcano over there started to happen, and then I go until today's date. So this is just kind of showing you just that in that area alone, how much of an impact first Saturn, then Jupiter, then the sun has on the situation. I think that's Pluto. Yeah, so we've got Pluto, Jupiter, Saturn, and then the sun following up there, but that changes quite often. So here I'm going to start moving it around a little bit, just so we can see the exact areas that this is transiting over in this same area over and over and over again, day after day after day after day. So I think this is where in the video here in a moment, I'm going to choose to like follow along with these big, large planets to see where they're actually going across the whole globe, not just Australia, obviously, but what is their path all the way across the globe, and what does that look like? So it does indeed cross right over this other area where all the other volcanoes are, at least in proximity. Now, if we were to watch this area like we just did for Australia, I'm sure we'd find that it's still cycling over that same kind of hotspot area. So this is a really cool app. The free version is available on the Google app, and I think actually it might be a $5 app, but it's definitely worth it if you're into this kind of stuff. So that's kind of what's up with different ways of looking at what's happening. And so we'll throw up also SolarSystemScope so that we can show you this while that. It's that's where those big planets are happening in Capricorn, in the Capricorn energy. I didn't notice that in that video. Then do sidereal people, sidereal Capricorn, Capricorn science. This is why I use sidereal. That's where they actually are. SolarSystemScope. Here we go. This is what things look like today. Okay, so Earth's looking over and see got Pluto in Sagittarius, Saturn and Jupiter in Capricorn. Capricorn says Capricorn. About to meet up with this guy. Sun is in Aquarius to us, as well as Neptune. Going to come into conjunction with Neptune, like here in a couple of days, or the next day. Probably in technical conjunction already right now. Mars is still facing and looking at Taurus. Pleiades, this is here. Not much out there. You have a little bit of a Earth, Sun, Venus. So we may have some increased solar activity our direction, which would likely mean an increase in Earth's activity. Whenever we have one of these inner planets that do one of these squishing of the sun, we have this connection of things that happen with the Earth's magnetic field interactions. So just we're coming into an opposition with an inner planet of Venus. So we are going to feel like Venus is on the other side of issues sometimes. So we might have some relationship, just general quarrels, not seeing things the same way as everybody else. And just know that's okay. This allows us to see things differently and to feel things differently, and to have different ways of having conversation and making changes to things. So that's upcoming. And that's what it looks like. And that's by just kind of using astrology in this 3D format, because all astrology really is looking at it in a 2D perspective. So what I like to do is put the sun in the center and then the Earth chart on the outside. So primarily I'm going to be looking at the outer circle, which is the Earth-centered, geocentric, sidereal chart. And again, the inner circle is from a sun-centered position. So from the sun-centered position, for example, the Earth is in Leo presently. To the sun, Earth is in Leo. To the sun, Venus. In like either Capricorn, Aquarius, very cuspy. To the sun, however, these planets are still in Capricorn. Okay? To the sun, however, Mars, much more cuspy with Gemini, Taurus, whereas to us it's very much in Taurus energy, right straight toward at Pleiades right now to us. But again, sun-wise, It's Mars is much more aligned in Gemini. So that's why I like to look at these, because I like to make use of both the helio and the geocentric chart on a regular basis. So this is one of the best ways that I know that I can look at both and use both every day. It's just to make a bi chart. So I haven't seen anybody else do this, by the way. So it's not like a standard. Don't feel bad if you have never seen this done before. It's the first time I've ever seen it done, and it just makes look at things like space weather and everything else. So this is what that looks like. Again, we talked a little bit how we've got a Mercury conjunction. This is actually a true conjunction. So we may have a lot of communication being expressed. We might be willing to talk over different issues and quarrels to find resolution, particularly by having dialogue. Some of us, because Saturn is so close, might be having to face some hard decisions or having some hard conversations that are really meant to grow and help you to grow and develop. It has to do with Jupiter. So if you are overly expressive or you're trying to express yourself, this would be a good time to do those kinds of and this is actually squaring, Jupiter is actually squaring Mercury, helio chart. So this is a little bit of a self-challenge. There's a little bit of a challenging aspect to speaking your mind from an inner place, from a truthful, heliocentric, soul-centered place. It might be kind of difficult to get out into the open where we see this conjunction, this coming together happening. So it's coming from a place where things are needing to be faced. They need to surface, they need to be talked about, and right now, today, is a likely time that those conversations will need to be had, whether that's to do in whatever part of your life. Right now, to this hour, if that conversation is right now, then it's probably about spirituality, what you believe in. But in the next hour, if that conversation is for you, it might be in more regards to your work and comrades, people that you work with or work for. Have a business meeting, your boss who's working you too many hours or not enough hours. In the 11th house, we might be dealing with more communications with community services. Maybe you need to make some calls, pay some bills, get some assistance, those kinds of things. So it just depends on what hour your conversation or your expression will be there, just as an example. So we have some other things going on too. Neptune, the Sun, and Venus are, astrologically speaking, all very close together in Aquarius, trying to work together to find a place of unity, of harmony, and communication. So this may be a little bit covered up because of Neptune. It might feel a little subconscious at times. But the Sun is coming in hot with Venus, help unify. So this could be a good time for self-healing, of unification of the yin and the yang in any way, shape, or form. Yin and yang are forces that are meant to work together to help the whole. So even when it comes to things like gender, polarization, good and bad, whatever it is, they are meant to work together. It's not a whole without both aspects of the yin and the yang. So these are the wholesome lessons that we're trying to get out of the Sun and this meetup with Neptune, who really reminds us of the long-term aspects. He's an outer planet, there for the long term, for the conscious of the generations upon generations of life that the solar system sustains for us. With the Sun's help. So the Sun is just definitely making its rounds. Kind of an interesting aspect. Okay, that's really the cover here. We do have a really high element of air today, just lots and lots of air. So we might have lots of abilities to use our mental powers today. I'll just keep it like that. I don't give most people enough to go off of here. So we'll transition back over. I will make my quick program small again. And it looks like we had another little CME come off. I'm looking at the bottom left-hand side of my screen here. Noticing another CME is coming off the back end. So if we look at the Earth, this is coming out towards the back. So what do you think is going to be hit by that CME? Venus. And what did we say just about Venus just a moment ago? What is it dealing with? Okay, so the sun has already provided the energy necessary to make these things happen that are going on in the chart today in the world. Now, we didn't really talk about this big picture at all, but the effects are definitely being felt. If we were to spend a second looking at like the cartography of these effects and what might be happening, I mean, we already saw that real forces of the outer planets are really hitting Australia, Africa, and South America with the power and the energy. Now, if I look at cartography, which we can do, let's do that. Just good. And I have written about this on my blog. So if you're like, whoa, this is the coolest thing ever, or like, whoa, what the heck is that? Visit my website and more. But what I really want to see is where the Venus line is. That's what I'm looking for right here. I mean, to this hour, Venus is right here, but I really want to see the whole line right here, because that'll tell us where Venus is traveling today and what it's hitting. It's really traveling in a very similar fashion. What's really hitting us here in the US is Pluto. Pluto's coming right through, real close to our capital. Also, Saturn is always coming really close. Mercury and Jupiter, these lines are crossing over us. So just they're hitting this South America, and then they're kind of coming up and above into like Canada area. So really, what's like getting us the most in the US is Pluto, which is this Pluto line comes through of our eastern side here down through the middle of South America, and then it pokes back up through the tip of these islands here above Australia and through Japan. Background to us again, meeting up with Alaska, coming through Canada and back down into our east. So that's what Pluto is doing, and that's the one that seems to be the most kind of getting close to us. We also have the moon. It travels quite differently than the rest, but it is coming over and doing closer to us as well. So that's kind of an overall of what I've got for you today. I hope you learned something. I will go ahead and put this up both on Facebook and YouTube. And I am trying to get everything together on my website. I've really worked super hard to get my shop and all of my services up and ready so that I can work with other people. And I'm really ready to start doing that. I offer energy healing. Of course, I offer astrology interpretation. I offer divination, which can even includes things like palm reading, astrology, cards, of course. I've actually got a really cool setup for card readings if anyone who wants hit me up for a card reading. And I also offer Reiki and spiritual services. Spiritual services contain things like life coaching if you're having a hard time with your spirituality, or you want to learn more about something that confuses you. I'm very well researched in many religious ideas and histories and deities and concepts, myths and things, especially if they're in any kind of relation to astrology, which they all are. Which is probably why I know so much about them. But just know that I am fully ready and fully prepared to start to work with people or one-on-one. A lot of my services are choose your own price or pay what you can. So money is not really an issue for why I'm doing this. I want to get to work in helping people, their life, have a better understanding of how astrology affects us through universal understanding, spirituality, and science such as space, weather, and astronomy, as well as wellness and for a life of love, light, using spiritual and energetic answers. I'm also really into using crystals, herbs, oils, and natural ways of helping yourself. So I hope to see you around. Come say hi, Let me know if there's anything that you can work on together. And thanks for watching. I'll see you again tomorrow.